so questions and answers time. I'm going to give the floor to Billy, and maybe also Valentina want to share some of the most frequent questions we have received today.
Yeah, maybe if I can start building on what you said, Yolanda. Yes, it's very, very important to read the guidance first. I know there is a tendency to write to the help desk straight away. It actually saves you time if you read the guidance first, because we have 5 working days to respond, and most answers are, if not all, they are in the guidance. We can only provide additional clarifications. We know some of you want a very definite answer from us. Some interesting conversations about a project based in the Amazon today in the Q&A sessions. We can't really be forced to assess your eligibility to apply or your project idea. There are some decisions that the lead organization need to make. So we can only clarify that you need to demonstrate an impact on the marine environment and poverty reduction, plus all the assessment criteria and scoring criteria. But the decision is for you to make, not for us to tell you. Us very clear yes or no answer. And the other advice I would like to give you is please review the scoring criteria very detailed and make sure you speak to those as you develop your application to facilitate the scoring and facilitate you getting a higher score. This obviously provided that you meet all eligibility requirements, and so your application is given to the expert committee to review. And final point is please do not use templates from round 1. So all templates were redone and improved. So even if you applied last year, please use the template for this year. Otherwise, you wouldn't, meet eligibility requirements. So that's some general tips from the 74 answers I provided this morning. I think we have about 10 on subgranting. So I think, Billy, if I can ask for your help in providing some clarification around the rules for subgranting and subcontracting. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, it seems like maybe a little bit of confusion on this one. When we talk about subgranting, what we are referring to here is that you put forward an application that asks for money for another grants program where you will give funding out to other organizations. For us, that isn't an eligible expense because we want you to form partners with those organizations and partnerships and work with those organizations in the project design rather than apply for funding and then further down the line distribute that to organizations that we are not aware of, that we don't know who they are and haven't been involved in the process. So this kind of subgranting point, we do expect you to create subcontracts with partners. We do expect you to pass funding to partner organizations as well via kind of creating that partnership agreement and subcontracting with those named partners in the application form. But what we don't expect is you to just provide funding to the to organizations that we're not aware of as part of the application, and that it's just kind of creating a separate kind of grant scheme using the Ocean Funds. So, and part of the reason for that is that we don't know who those organizations are. We don't know if you've done the due diligence on those. We don't know where the funding is going and kind of how effective that funding will be. So we just really want to steer away from kind of giving out funding as without knowing who those partners are and working in a partnership with named partners in the organization and in the application process. Hopefully that's clarified. Rachel, I don't know if there was anything you wanted to add on from the finance side.
My camera seems to have gone off, but I don't know. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, nothing to add. I think, obviously that just clarifies what we mean by subgranting. It's not that you would be subgranting to your partners. It would be people applying to you for a grant using the funds.
Yeah. And I think, sorry, just to add, I've just looked at some of the other questions. So someone was asking in what format did the partner organizations develop the budget within the lead organization's budget? In the budget template, there's a space for you to allocate whether the funding that you're asking in that line is for the lead organization or for the partner and which partner that is. So we would expect you in the budget when completing it to tell us exactly how much funding is going to each partner to the lead organization so that we get a picture on the summary page of how much funding in total is going to the lead organization, to the partner, the different partners, and where that budget is split across the different categories. So make sure to have a look at the budget template and to complete all the relevant partner information in there so that we can really get that information from you. And we would expect those partners to be involved in those conversations around the design of the budget to kind of demonstrate that they're involved in the project design, implementation, and understand kind of the approach. And I think sorry, one last question on subgranting that I've just seen come in. So someone is asking, is it possible to subgrant community organizations to undertake restoration work as part of engaging them and enhancing their capacity for restoration? It would be possible to provide funding to these community organizations to undertake this work, but we would want you to provide the information of who those community organizations are and to create a partnership with them so that you can pass that funding to them rather than and allocate that funding in the budget to them, rather than not naming who they are and just providing a subgrant down to them. We'd expect that to be more of a partnership opportunity. I hope that clarifies that point.
Thank you, Billy. I think we've answered all questions on that. The next one from Charity. If an organization average annual income qualifies them to apply for 250K, does it mean that they won't be eligible since the minimum is 500K?
I think it depends on what we're referring to here, because if this is in response to the exercise Yolanda was going through earlier, then that organisation that had an annual income of £1 million was eligible to apply for up to £250,000 per year, but they could, over the 4 financial years that a project can run for this next round, apply for £250,000 each year. So could actually apply for up to £1 million for that organisation. So it depends on the context of this question. The minimum grant size is £500,000, so you have to meet that minimum there's no question about that, but that can be spread over the years. It doesn't have to be in a single year. So do just keep that in mind.
Yeah, thanks, Billy. And I think if you work out that you don't qualify, I think go and have a look at community grants. You may be eligible for those. Next question is, which eventual changes in the team composition presented in the proposal in the implementation phase compromise the eligibility of the project? So obviously present the team as it is. If you are awarded a grant and you need to face changes within the team, for example, a key staff member leaves your organization or retires, you'll be able to submit a change request and have that sort of amended and mirrored. But as things stand, please present the team as you have it. If you don't have or need to recruit for a key role, please use a job description instead of the CV and submit that. And please stick to the 1-page requirement for CVs. The next question from Fabian, Billy, I'd like you to take, because I've tried to answer this a few times. I haven't been convincing enough. So let's hear from somebody different from me, please.
Yeah, no problem. So Fabian, I think with regards to your request here, and kind of as Valentina said just a second ago, all projects must have an impact on the marine environment. And, you know, when we're saying that we're defining that as the marine environment, we're not defining that as an aquatic environment or an inland body of water. We're defining it as the marine environment. So that's for you to decide on whether you feel your project fits the definition of what a marine environment. We don't know all of the background information around your project. So that's where we need to kind of put that emphasis on you to try and kind of make that decision yourself. But as we've kind of said in this application, and you know, one of the scoring criteria is an impact on the marine environment. If there isn't an impact on the marine environment demonstrated for your project, then it is highly likely it's not going to score very well in that area, and then it won't kind of score very well overall or be recommended for funding. So please do keep all of that in mind and try and kind of make that decision of whether you feel your project fits the criteria and the eligibility points.
Thank you, Billy. Sophia is asking, is it preferable for the local partners CSO to directly manage funds?
I don't think it's necessarily preferable, but we do want to see local partners kind of integrated into the management of the project, and for some form of funding to be allocated to them. So if they're running a training workshop or an activity, then we would expect that funding to be allocated to them in the budget and for them to then directly manage that bit of funding. So you can provide support to partners in that management of funding and kind of how you want to do it, but we would like to see them properly embedded into the implementation, and part of implementing would be kind of the management of some funding.
Thank you.
And I think we did kind of just touch upon in the presentation that there's no specific percentage of how much funding should go to partners, but to demonstrate good value for money, we would be expecting quite a lot of funding to reach kind of the delivery partner level and the local community level. So if you have local communities, and then we would expect them to be kind of getting an appropriate amount of the funding from Ocean to manage activities.
Okay, thanks, Billy. Next question is, what are regarded as the key personnel?
I think people who are key to the implementation of the project. I know it's a little bit ambiguous, but I think that's for you to kind of have a look at who is required to run the project, and then kind of who is there to kind of support the general kind of running of the project. And we would expect those people that are required and critical to running the project to be key personnel. And they're the ones we want to see CVs of and be recorded in the application form. There is a space in the budget for other partners, other key staff, other staff, so you can kind of disaggregate between key personnel, and then underneath you can put other personnel and separate them out in the budget. And we do also want to see key personnel from partners, so it's not just the lead organization. This is from all partners as well as the lead.
If a lead organization apply for 2 proposals, the Flexi Grant account of the lead applicant of each proposal can be different.
Yeah, I can take this one. You can create different Flexi Grant accounts. You'd need different email addresses, or you will get an error message to tell you that you already have an account with that email address. But if they have separate email addresses, you could have separate Flexi Grant accounts for each proposal.
Great. Thank you, Rachel. So we've reached the end of the session, I think. Billy, any preference there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to just try and answer a final few questions if it helps people. If we just run for a few more, and then we'll finish up in the next few minutes.
Sure. So I can take the next one. Is it possible to apply for both partnership and community grant? Yes. There is no limit to the number of applications you can submit. You can also submit an application if you have applied last year, and also if you were awarded a grant last year. Because I think DEFRA will take a view making sure funds do not all go to the same organizations, but nothing prevents you from applying. Kenan is asking, can we submit project references from the last round? Does the date need to be recent? I think that would be okay as long as the contra of the reference relates to the past 5 years. So that will be fine. Can capital expenditure exceed 10% if funded through co-funding? Rachel, can you help with this?
Yes, I suppose the short answer to that is yes. We just ask that it's not 10% of the Ocean grant.
Thank you. Ari is asking, are grants in countries where there is active conflict or extreme high criminality considered high risk for ocean and less likely to receive funding? Assuming risk management is considered very careful, will the security state still be negative factor? And I think just to add to this question from Ari, we've had a few questions around, is there a preference within the eligible countries and the geographies? So Billy, I think if you could help responding to this one, and the general about preferred countries, if any.
Yeah, so I think just to start with, there isn't any preferred countries. The list of eligible countries is there and is open for all, and all applications will be assessed independently and kind of against the selection criteria that are detailed there. So there isn't necessarily any kind of preference or priority for countries. All applications will be kind of assessed together and in the same manner and a fair kind of transparent way. In terms of projects in active conflict or extremely high criminality areas, these again wouldn't necessarily be less likely to receive funding, but you would be expected to take a more robust risk management approach. And really, I would suggest that you really focus on the risk register to detail how you will implement your project successfully in these kind of areas. So I think risk management would be a really high priority within a project of this. So you should consider that area strongly. And then the application would be assessed kind of on its technical basis, including that risk management approach alongside other applications in the same way.
Thank you. How to give access to other members of my organization to Flexi Grant?
Yep, you can give access to other members. There's details of step-by-step guide how to do this in the Flexi Grant guidance, but when you log in, you can see where you can add other members of your organization. The only thing I would highlight is if anybody who has contributed to the application form needs to click that they have finished all their work that they're doing on it, there's a button to click that you've all finished, as the submit button doesn't come up until each person who's worked on the application has said that they've finished.
Thank you, Rachel. I'll also ask you to take the last one, please. Are there eligible expenses? I looked at the finance guide, but didn't find it.
Not sure quite what they mean by that. Are there eligible expenses?
Maybe refer to the template grant agreement in terms of what's, some costs wouldn't be allowed or reimbursed by DEFRA. Would that be the answer? Can you give some example off the top of your head, Rachel, of what's not eligible for DEFRA?
I think there is in the finance guidance a list of ineligible expenses.
Okay.
And so I would look at, I think it might be in one of the annexes. I would have a look at those lists. If it's not in there, then I would assume that it's an eligible expense. I wouldn't necessarily look for eligible expenses. I look for what's ineligible and go from there. The terms and conditions is also the other good place that you referenced, Valentina, to have a look at what can be paid for.
Thank you both. And I think we have one last one from Fabian, and then we stop here. This is very specific to his application.
So I think for this one, it would be for Blue U Consulting Limited directly. It wouldn't be for the group of companies. It would be for the singular kind of lead organization. Yeah,
Okay.
so it's whoever the annual income applies to, whoever is named as the lead organisation in the application, as that's who the grant agreement is signed with and kind of the organisation is directly worked with.
Thank you, Billy. So I think we can close the Q&A and I'll pass back to
Great.
you.
Yeah, I can finish off. Just to say that the post-event survey will appear after this session, so please, if you have a moment, we do really value your feedback on how the session went, so it'd be great to hear from you all. And I think just to say thank you very much for joining us today. I hope everyone found it really useful and helpful, and all the best with your applications. There's a few points of contact us and following us on the screen now, but yeah, thank you very much, and all the best with the rest of your days.